All right. Hello, Carmen.
Hi, Rick.
Hi.
Oh,
I've been wanting to do this for a while now and ask you some questions about your life. You're a really inspiring woman, and and I know that I mean, these are just questions that I'm curious about your life. And, I'm fortunate to have gotten to know you a bit over the last many years since you did the first retreat with me, and we've crossed paths many times. And but some of these questions I still don't know about you. And I think it would be inspiring for yeah, the people in our community and people who want to have, a greater sense of like designing their lives. Listen to this conversation. I think they'll come away with not only inspiration but some practical tips and perspectives. So first off, thank you so much for making the time to talk to me. And let's start with where are you right now?
well, first of all, I'm super happy to be doing this. So it's always good to connect, Rick. And I know you sent a few questions through before, and as I mentioned, it was inspiring to me to think about these questions. So super excited.
Cool.
I'm in Maui right now. So we bought a house about a year and a half ago here. So we've been here for about a year and a half. Um, and I love it. It's if those of you who have been to Bali, it's very similar to that. But I also really miss Bali because Bali is one of my heart's places as well.
And this is a house that you actually um, lived in years previously, or can you tell me the story about it a little bit?
Yeah, it's pretty synchronistic. So in 2012 is when I started living around the world. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start businesses is I wanted to live around the world doing what I loved. And I built my businesses up for years. And finally, 2012 was when I was able to actually start doing that. And I started with Maui and Bali. And I found this architect who had had built a house in Maui, and he also had a house in Seminyak in Bali. But he would go back every 2 months. So I would live in his Maui house, rent it from him, and then we would trade and I would rent his Seminyak house.
Really?
So when I started, yeah, and it was just when I was looking to live in Maui and Bali, and it was like, how in the world would you find a situation like that? So I rented the place. And what's really funny is when I used to live here back in 2012, I always felt like it was kind of mine. But of course, at the time, like, it just wouldn't have been possible. So then about 2 years ago, I saw it. And then I had kind of moved on where I was living more of my time in Bali. And I actually then bought a place in Miami. I was doing Bali and Miami.
Mhm.
And then when we were doing Bali and Australia, because I keep looking for this Western place to live, the house came up for sale and just totally out of the blue. And I just kind of knew I had to buy it. Like it was
Uh-huh.
one of those synchronistic things where you're like, oh, this is sort of meant to be. So yeah, we
Uh-huh.
ended up buying it.
And so you've been there for a year and a half.
Year and a half. Yeah. Yeah.
And what when I was talking to you the other day to, before touch base before this call, you told me that it was off the grid. And so I wanted to ask you about that because this is something that I think a lot of people um, are interested, in living a more sustainable life. So the first question is, what's it like? What are the pluses and minuses of living off the grid where you are? And was this something that you were searching for, an off the grid house, or was it that the off the gridness came with the awesome house?
Good question. And for people who don't know what off the grid means, because a lot of people don't know, and I didn't really know, it means where you're totally sustainable, not with electricity from, like systems, or you have your own water catchment. So literally everything is run by solar panel. So every single thing in the house, and we have our own water catchment, which means when it rains, it rolls off the roof into a huge water tank and then gets put through a reverse osmosis system. So basically it means that the world could shut down and you could still live, is how I kind of describe it.
All
And
right.
it's great. It's because you feel like you're contributing to the planet's health. But I wouldn't say there's that many challenges other than you have to be a little bit more careful of using electricity. Say, for example, if the sun doesn't come out for a couple of days. So then you're a little bit more mindful. You might not run the dryer for, a day or so.
Uh-huh.
But it's really not that hard. You've got generators, like if the sun doesn't come out for a few days, you can just run your generator. Although we hate to do that because that's gas, and then you feel like you're defeating the whole purpose of being off the grid.
Yeah.
And other things that are probably a little bit of a challenge until you get used to it is that you have satellite internet. So you don't have your typical internet. So you have to get used to, like, we only have 150 megabytes of bandwidth. And that can be, you have to get used to that, especially if you have an internet-based business like I do.
Yeah.
But it's so worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And you're actually like on the ocean. Do you see the sunset? Do you see the sunrise? What direction are you facing?
Yeah, every sunrise, it comes through our window. So literally you can see it through your toes. So we wake up to the sunrise, and then it sets on the other side, of course, but you can still see the rays. Like, you see, it's almost like you see a sunset without the sun being there, just how the rays kind of refract over.
Yeah.
But it's the sunrise that we see every morning.
Yeah.
And because you're out in nature, like we're 25 minutes away from Paia, which is the nearest, it's a little cute hippie town, just gorgeous, but it's 25 minutes away. So here there's no lights. So you see the stars, like, like if any of you have ever gone camping and there's no lights around, you just see the stars and the moon much more clear. And so that's really special here too.
Beautiful. So obviously you sound pretty grateful for your house and, your living situation. What else in your life, if I just say, what are you grateful for? And, this is one of my favorite topics. What else comes to your mind right now?
Ooh, definitely my partner, Peter, who's also my business partner. So romantic partner and business partner. Our cats, we have 3 rescue cats that we got when they were probably about 6 weeks old. And they're all brothers and sisters.
Did you get them on Bali and bring them to Maui? Is that right?
No, we wanted to. So in Bali, I had rescue cats too. So our maid, our Pembantu in Bali, still takes care of them. So we pay her to take care of our cats instead of us. So they're taken so well care of. We tried to get them to Maui, but it's really hard to get them out of Bali. So we kind of, in essence, sort of gave up. But they've got good homes, and when we get back, we'll see them.
Yeah.
But here we got 3 more rescue kittens about 7 months ago. So, and they're just adorable. I love cats. So they're just, bring you so much joy. I mean, pets just give that extra dimension.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for them. Really happy because I'm teaching dance 3 times a week. And it took me a little bit longer to find the right places to teach in Maui. Yeah. And that's, if I'm not teaching, it's always a missing. So now I'm teaching in 3 places I just love, in different places on the island. So and that works well because we live way out in nature. So it's actually good to go teach somewhere like an hour away. That can seem like a drive, but it's just so nice to get somewhere different on the island.
Yeah.
So
So you bring up dance. So this is something I wanted to talk to you about. I remembered when you went through the Vision Quest process the first time, you kind of fell in love again with dance, or realizing that you wanted dance to be a regular part of your life because you love it so much. So why do you like dance? What do you love about, what's your experience when you dance?
Well, there's so many things. I think the biggest thing is, I think dance, once you really let go, is where you really feel your real personality. Like, you can be really authentic. Your life force really comes out. You feel freedom, you feel joy. It can change your mood just like that. And what I love dancing myself, but I love also teaching it, because once people realize they don't have to get it perfectly or get the right steps, you can see this joy and the true them come out. And I just love seeing that, especially if it's someone who didn't think they could dance. So when you see that, like, oh my God, this is so fun, I just love that look. And they're just really in their own essence, their own personality. And for me, it's a great way to keep fit, obviously. And I'm really into fitness, and I really believe in exercise as a ritual for entrepreneurs. But I just love the freedom that it gives me, the creativity. When you're an entrepreneur, you have to be really focused and work, obviously. And so dance just is that counter, completely different. I can let go, have fun, relax. And it probably is my biggest thing that gives me the strongest life force, the strongest energy.
Yeah. Mm. And so you talk about teaching dance and enjoying, like, facilitating that experience for people. So can you tell me about, this is like one of my favorite topics of when you can, well, basically what I've found with our purpose and what's really fulfilling for us is about uplifting and empowering other people. Like there's this kind of like universal thing among my participants when I quiz people. I say, what if I had a magic wand, could just tap you on the head and you could do anything, what would you want to do? And most people say a version of, I would want to take away other people's suffering, and I would want to awaken them to the powerful creator that they are, and to help them have more joy and happiness in their life. And what's so interesting for me is helping people find their ways. Each person has their own recipe for doing that. So it sounds like you have a couple different ways that you do that, but dance sounds like one of your favorite ways of, do you find that it empowers and uplifts people and takes away their suffering and helps them be more joyful?
Absolutely. Like it can shift the mood of someone so quickly. So there's that. But it's also, I think in life, there's so many things that we're trying to get right or be perfect or be great at. And we have this idea that we have to be really perfect in everything to be successful. But dance, there's something where when you let go, that your true kind of joy comes out. And it's in that letting go and not trying to get it perfect that everything starts working.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's a real metaphor for life. Like the more I can get people to let go on the dance floor and not care what everyone thinks around them, and to realize like everyone's worried about what they look like. So forget about that. Just have your joy, like dance your spirit, dance your essence. And then that translates into life. They're more willing to let go in life. They're more willing to be authentic. They're more willing to be quirky, because in dance class they can be quirky and kind of assume a persona.
Yeah.
So I just find it's a real metaphor for success, because we know like if we concentrate too hard on stuff, it just doesn't work. When we let go, when we flow, everything starts working. And so dance for me is and I use it at my retreats. I use it for all my clients. I tell them, go dance. That will help your business. That will help your money. That will help your relationships. It helps everything.
Yeah. And what's the feeling like for you when you see someone go through that little transformation over, whether it's a few minutes or an hour on the dance floor or something? What's that like for you to see that?
It's probably my biggest joy. Like that, when I think of like, okay, well, why do I teach dance? It's so, when someone who thinks, especially if they think they couldn't dance or they're not good at it, and then they have that breakthrough that, wow, like when I actually stop worrying, when I just let go, I'm actually dancing, and I'm dancing in my own style. And that look of joy that just comes over their face, like, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. And there's not as much fear. There's not as much care about what people think. That to me is when I've touched someone, because I know they'll go out into life and do the same thing. They'll start being more of themselves. They'll start relaxing. They'll start efforting less, and they start having more fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And also
I think everyone should dance.
Yeah. And they also have like a new, almost a new kind of a standard. I don't know if that's the right word, but the next time they're on the dance floor, they know if they've shown up and they're feeling a little stiff or disconnected, they know what it feels like to go through that process of letting go and getting connected. And they'll probably be able to ease into that a little quicker and a little quicker and a little quicker on the dance floor and in life too, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember one of my favorite experiences was a girl that came to one of my retreats, and she was like, Carmen, I really want to do everything on this retreat, but I don't want to dance. And I was like, it's okay. We're not going to make you. But I said, well, come to ecstatic dance. Cause that's one of the things I do is by the third day, we take everyone to ecstatic dance. And I was like, just come, you don't have to join in. You can just sit on the side and we'll come over and talk to you. And, slowly by slowly, like, because she didn't feel, we weren't pushing or forcing her. She tried a little bit more. And then by the end of that ecstatic dance, she was just like so in love with it.
Yeah.
But what was so amazing is the end of the retreat, she was like, dance has changed my life. I'm now going to start taking classes to become a teacher. And this is from someone who's like, I don't want to dance at all at your retreat to like, I want to be a dance teacher.
Yeah.
So that probably is one of my favorite just seeing the unfolding and the joy that happened for her to
Yeah.
go from can't and I'm really scared and I'm afraid to look like a fool to
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like I feel so great and I want to help other people feel this way too.
Yeah. That's huge. That's beautiful.
Um,
Cool. I'm gonna change topics a little bit. What what
uh,
what have been I love synchronicities. I love life-changing moments. What have been a couple of the crossroads moments in your life?
mm, well, I definitely think the house was a super synchronistic thing. Even the house that I bought, even renting it back in 2012, came from when I was here in Maui 6 months previous and followed a rainbow from the main city 45 minutes away that ended where this house was. So there
Uh-huh.
was so much like that's not even possible. Like it's just so crazy. So things like that.
So wait, you were what, driving around, or what happened?
I was actually doing a retreat in the same area. So
Uh-huh.
45 minutes from the main town. And then I drove into the main town, Kahului, which is where the airport is as well. So I
Uh-huh.
was going into, I don't know, a restaurant or something. And I was thinking about, because I already knew I wanted to live on Maui. Um, this is actually interesting. Probably when I was in my late teens or 20s, I read a book by Wayne Dyer that I loved. And in the preface where it explained his biography, it said that he wrote his books from Maui. And I was like, I'm going to live in Maui one day. And
Uh-huh.
that's actually why I ended up in Maui. So I came here for a retreat. And then when I was here, I was like, I want to move from California at the time and move to Maui. And I'd asked the retreat leader, do you know anyone that's renting a place similar to the place I'm staying? Because it was so unique. It was octagonal, just very, very unique, all open plan. And he said, yeah, there's this guy. I'll introduce you to him. So when I was in town, I was thinking about that. And I saw this rainbow. And I was driving home to the same area, but it just happened that where that rainbow ended was this house. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not too far from where I was staying, like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
but still like the rainbow ended right here, like
Uh-huh.
right outside in the ocean.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so I knew it was the perfect place to rent. And then obviously, down the line to buy. So it was just kind of the whole thing was meant to be.
I love it.
And
What else?
I probably wouldn't have even gotten to Bali as easily if I hadn't have had, a place in Maui that I was living for 2 months and then going to Bali for 2 months and then going back. And then, so that was very synchronistic because I realized how much I loved Bali, through that very easy way of getting introduced to Bali.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, other synchronistic things. Do you mean more like synchronicity or more like things that have really impacted where I headed in my life?
Yeah, that somehow changed the direction. When you look back, you can see, oh, that was the moment where something, there was an introduction made, or an idea came, or some synchronistic thing came, but it actually changed the trajectory of your life and what you ended up doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a big moment when I went from thinking I was just going to be in a typical 9 to 5 job and climb the corporate ladder and get a corner office. Like that literally, my goal was I wanted to be an ambassador and just have a great office and be thought well of. And like I had no aspiration to be an entrepreneur. I was an English lit major.
When you say
And I
ambassador,
had someone,
what do you mean ambassador?
oh, like a working, say, in the American Embassy in France.
Okay, okay,
So
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
more like I not political ambassador, but more kind of on
International.
communication. Exactly. But that was like the height of my no aspiration to be an entrepreneur at any stretch of the imagination. And I
Uh-huh.
had someone challenge me on that idea. Like, what? Like, you just want to be just climb the ladder and that's it, and just have a big corner office? And I kind of started thinking about that as like, yeah, maybe that's like not enough. And then I read Think and Grow Rich. And I think that was a culmination of understanding how I could impact people. And that if I really focused on what people wanted and what they needed and being of service, then that could be my business, and you'd be rewarded financially for that. So
Yeah.
that kind of opened up my mind to entrepreneurship and how to make money. And I think that was the shift for me, like, oh, you make money by helping other people. And that was because I came from a religious background. I'm not religious now, but where money was really looked down upon. So I didn't have a good relationship with money when I was younger. So that changed my relationship to money, being of service, that money is a result of being of service. So that was a huge Think and Grow Rich, really opened up my mind.
Yeah.
Then Ask and It's Given was the next book that really helped me, because that focused on do what you love while you're on your way to, creating a business.
Yeah.
So that book was amazing. And then the third thing was actually Surf Life. So when Vision Quest used to be Surf Life, that was the third massive impact. I was already doing what I loved in my business. So by this time I was teaching dance. And that's when I started teaching dance and being more of my joy. That's when my businesses took off like hugely.
Yeah.
But Surf Life made it go from teaching dance twice a week to everything that I did was centered around what I loved. And so because it was more a body experience going to your retreat, like we're surfing, where all these principles we're actually doing, like it somehow got embodied so much more. I was already doing it a little bit, but not to the level that I did it after the Vision Quest the first time. Yeah. So those are two books and people, people always influence you hugely. As well.
That's my next question. Is there like a mentor that, someone that really helped guide you on your path and empower you?
Yeah, I think my ex-husband, who I'm still really good friends with, an Australian that lives in Canada, he was the one that challenged me, like, what, you just want a corner office? Like, that's all you want? So that was like a really good mentorship, if you will. I also had a mutual friend of ours, Adam Hudson, was someone that I did my first company with in Australia. So he had a massive impact on my mindset. I had an amazing life coach called Juliana Gambrel, who's now one of my closest friends. And she was all about speaking your truth. And that was something that I really had to learn after I came out of my divorce, because I realized like one of the reasons I got divorced was I wasn't able to speak my truth. So really figuring out like, what do I feel? How can I speak that with grace and love, but be really authentic and truthful to what I'm feeling? So she had another huge impact on me.
Can I ask you about that? Because
absolutely.
That is another one of my favorite topics is, how do we speak authentically and represent ourselves authentically and say what we want and be able to tell people what we want, what's okay, what's not okay, to be able to stand up for ourselves. And and I think for most people we weren't raised that way. And so it's like this kind of a new concept that you have to kind of become introduced to. And then you have to kind of seek out people that are wanting to be like that too, to be authentic too, like in our relationships, the people that we work with, our friends, bringing it into our families. And I'm really lucky to have pretty much surrounded myself with people and situations where we can speak like that, and even when it's uncomfortable, but to realize, to feel it when something needs to be said, or, can you tell me a little bit about what that transformation was like for you and how you feel now?
Yeah, absolutely. Because there's definitely a journey. I think that the first thing that I had to realize when I started with the coaching program, the Handel group, because they're really into this as well, is that I didn't even know what I truly felt. Like I didn't even know what I wanted. Because say, for example, if you've grown up with not speaking your truth, sometimes it's not even that you're not just speaking it, you don't even know what it is. So I had to go through this, really getting in touch with, what do I feel? Not based on, well, how is this person going to receive it? Is it going to be hard for them to hear? Because then that stops you. If you focus on that stops you from really figuring out what you want or feel. So I had to let go of, okay, not worrying about how it's going to affect this person or how they're going to feel. First of all, not talking to them, but just because obviously you want to care how it impacts them. But let me get straight on, what do I feel first, and what do I need? And then I had to learn how to speak it with, grace and love, because everything that we say impacts somebody else as well. And then I think the other big learning was, and this is something I still practice, because speaking your truth isn't a one-time event. Like you don't just do it once and then you've done it forever. It's always, like every single day you have an opportunity to speak your truth or step over it. And I have found the sooner that I speak about something, the less mess there is. Like I've seen it time and time again. If I don't bring it up in a very gentle way, it builds and then it cascades into this thing that becomes more unmanageable and it can cause more hurt.
Yeah.
So yeah, the quicker, and we all have this, like for me, like I'll get this uneasy feeling, like it just doesn't feel right. Or I start feeling stressed or anxious. And I know that's my cue. Like I'm not saying something.
Yeah.
And I remember we had a talk a long time ago where I was saying, I think something I said, I'm feeling a little bit depressed and just not happy. And you said something, the only time you really feel that way is if you're not speaking your truth, you're not being authentic. And that made me realize, there's a couple of conversations I need to have with people.
Yeah.
It's so, no, go ahead, keep going.
With that, this is something I would suggest for anyone to do if you're feeling that like you're feeling the lack of energy or depressed or unfocused or something, is to look and see what area or areas of your life are you not being authentic. And it could be like, you could be in your relationship or a friendship or something you need to make right, or it could be in your your business, how you're presenting yourself, or and I agree that it's an ongoing thing as we evolve, and we have new dynamics and relationships and friendships and everything. But all that was just amazing. Anything else that you want to say about authentically communicating?
I think the other thing too is that there's two sides to speaking your truth. Like when we speak it, we don't know how the person is going to react, and they may not react well. They may react well. We don't know, but that can't stop you from speaking your truth. Like whatever the reaction is going to be. And of course, I always go back to, we have to say it with grace and love, because we're affecting another human being as well. But on the other side of that is sometimes even if we fear like it's going to impact the person negatively, they're going to hate us, sometimes that's not even the case. Like it's the best thing for them. It frees them too. So I've just really learned, I don't know what their reaction is going to be, but I know if I speak my truth, it's going to work out in some way. Maybe even if it's a parting of ways, it's okay, because if we had to stay together, and I'm not talking about just romantic relationships, business relationships, friendships, if you're staying together when there's not truth, it's not worth it, So it always, I really believe if you tell the truth, the universe, you might go like this, you might go like this, you might go like that, but it works out and you feel much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay, let's talk a little bit about business and the business side of your life. So from what I've known about you, your mind and your heart love business, and you get turned on and switched on when you're combining your heart and your passion with business and making money and empowering other people to make money. So can you just tell me, like, what do you love about business?
I love feeling ownership of something, that it's mine, and then I'm helping to, like, say, take it from nothing into something. So I think there's I like the responsibility of it, of feeling like I'm actually creating my destiny. I'm creating my business. I'm in control, in a good way though, versus, and some people love their 9-to-5 job. For me, I didn't like it. Like when I was in a 9-to-5 job, I like to be able to direct, okay, maybe if we're not making enough money, I can change it up. I don't have to go through the hierarchy of the company to change that. I can do something about that.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side is, you're responsible for everything, but I'd rather be responsible for everything than not have any control. So I like that. I also really like making money. I like seeing that there's a cause and an effect. So if I'm producing value, there's going to be a monetary result. And I really like that. And I like I really like helping people see that too. And it's probably because I didn't grow up with a good relationship with money. So then when that switched and I realized like money is just energy. And if you focus on serving other people, you'll make money. And I love helping people make that, that transition as well,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of people that have so much heart, you know, whether it's a yoga teacher or a coach, but they're not making as much money. And a lot of time as they should be, I think. And a lot of times it's just a little switch.
Yeah.
And that's what I really love helping people with too.
Yeah. This was going to be one of my questions for you is that I think that one of the things you do is help people have a healthier relationship with money, a more healthy, like vibrational relationship with money. What are like one or two of the kind of like negative habits or pitfalls that people fall into with their relationship with money? And what are some practices or new perspectives that you would suggest for people?
Yeah, I love this topic. One of the biggest things is if you're worried about money, a lot of people just put their head in the sand and don't even look at their finances. And that's like the worst thing you can do, because I really have seen this. Whatever we focus on expands. And once we get really clear on what our money situation is, it actually will get better. So rather than getting worse, it will get better, because you're seeing, okay, this is what my bank account is. This is the income. This is the expenses. So a little thing that you can do that I recommend everyone does is the first to the third of the month, just somewhere in there, have a spreadsheet where you've got like your bank account, your, you know, however you have your savings, your investments, etc. So you can use Mint for this too. So mint.com is a free service. But I still do this every month, is I just see where's all my income and my investments, everything is at. Because the very fact, if we do that, it subconsciously, we're going to, if say, for example, our expenses are up and our income is down, we'll start thinking, well, what can I do to get my income up? And, I need to be saving a little bit more. If we ignore it, it just gets worse. So that's one of the things I would say is track your money and your expenses. And it can be daunting at first, but that is what is going to have the quickest thing in turning your money situation around. A tiny little thing, and it's just more a fun thing to do, is I always tell people, organize your money. So, you know, have your bank accounts, your investments, like be very clear with it. And then in your wallet, keep your money organized. And I always say that money loves organization. It doesn't like chaos. It likes an organized mind. So I always imagine if my wallet is organized with all the bills in the right order, money's just going to come into that wallet. So it's a tiny thing, but I really believe when you see successful people, their houses are neat, their car is neat, their wallet is neat. And there's something about neatness. Like I really believe the universe loves organization. So if we can be, even if you're an artist and you know your studio is a mess, at least have your wallet and your money organized, because money's attracted to that. So that's a tiny little thing. If you have kids, this is something that I think is so important from the very beginning. If you're giving kids an allowance, have them either have, like I just had jars when I was little, but have them have a jar for, say, college, for their travel fund, for their clothing fund, for their toys, so that every time they get money, they're putting it into a fund. And that's really important is for kids. They might not connect as much if it goes into a bank account as, especially when they're young, of having jars, because that will get into their mind of allocating money to something that they want, that they're putting it in there. And it was, you know, from work, from chores, from whatever it is. That's something, I don't know who taught me when I was young. I don't know, but I know that impacted me later on. And so that's, I think, something we can do for kids, because it's not taught in schools.
I like that. And I want to say with the organizing your money in your wallet, that's something that you taught me years ago. And that is something I do. Like I'll, you know, every 2 days or something, when it gets a little disorganized, I'll reorder them. And every time I do it, I think of you. I'm like, oh yeah. You can organize. And the other thing was one of my, I used to have a business teaching surfing in Los Angeles in a previous lifetime. And one of my clients went on to create a couple of the biggest television shows. And in his office at home, his desk was this big wooden desk that had almost nothing on it. And then he had like completely organized, had his like laptop closed. And then he had a bulletin board that was very sparse, just with some images and like quotes and maybe like magazine clippings of things that were meaningful to him, that inspired him. And this guy, I mean, you could with all the stuff he had going on in his head, and the organization he was running and everything he was writing and all the writers working for him, it could have been just total chaos. But every time I would look at his office at home, I was like, super tidy, guitar in the corner and super tidy. And that made a huge impression on me, that it was more about like having a space to create and and honoring that space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that's not like, oftentimes artists, because it's different personalities, can operate with lots in their space and lots of color. But I think at least, even if it's not your whole area that's, super organized, at least with money, or at least with something being organized, helps money come in more. Because with money, we do have to be organized. It's not just, we just have to, there's bills to be paid, etc.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, definitely diversify like early on, and be saving early on. I mean, it's an old concept, but from it's that book that I read years ago, but basically at least saving 10%.
Yeah.
But I would say definitely, like, no matter, even if you're making just a little bit of money, be saving, because that over time just accumulates. And one thing I learned from Tony Robbins, probably, I think maybe 3 years ago, is there's a company called Vanguard that doesn't charge fees for your mutual fund. And so I moved my money from a mutual fund that was being managed, that practically the fees were eaten up. Oh, sorry, my what do you call it? The
interest, or the profit.
Yeah, profit. There you go. Was eaten up completely by the fees, and I didn't even know. And so when I switched to Vanguard, there's no fees.
Yeah.
So that's something I would recommend. Like, everyone, you need to be saving and then diversify as well. So I have things like in a bank account, I have some in Vanguard, I have other investments, but really important.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. My next question is can you tell us about some hurdle or challenge you faced in your professional life with a business, and how you got through it and what you learned?
I think the biggest probably is when I started when I was 27, because I was an English lit major, as I mentioned. So I started business and just feeling like wanting to be an entrepreneur, but then you start and then you realize, oh my goodness, I'm going to be talking to like men and people so much more advanced than me, and I'm just this little 27-year-old girl. So I had to get over feeling like I wasn't competent enough. And that really, how I did that was really just going back to what I wanted, and then believing in that dream so much, and using that as a something to pull me towards what I wanted. And then every time the doubt came in, I would remember like why I wanted what I wanted. But the other thing I would do is I would think of the pain, and the pain, if I wasn't successful being an entrepreneur, I'd have to go back and work for somebody else. So I would actually use my dream to pull me, and I use the pain to keep kicking me until I reached where there's no way I'd ever have to go back and work for someone. Then the dream could just pull me. But I recommend that to people. When you start, you may need the dream and you may need the pain to push you, until the dream just takes over and you don't need the pain of going back to a 9-to-5 job to push you.
Yeah.
So that was when I was 27. More recently, I had actually two really big things with two of my brand new businesses. So one was my nutrition bar company that I launched in Australia. That was a dream forever. I remember telling you at Surf Life, and you were like, a bar? You want to open up a bar? And I was like, no, a nutrition bar.
A vegan bar.
And that, I know, which probably didn't sound much better.
Is your bar vegan?
Yeah, completely vegan. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, 100% vegan, 11 grams of protein, which is very high for a vegan bar. Low sugar, all natural.
Yeah. I've tasted it. It's
that
delicious.
was, that's right. You did. I brought it to Bali. I forgot about that. Yeah. And the challenge was that I was, so I was really committed to these ingredients and being all natural, vegan, etc. And just before we went to production, I found out that the natural chocolate flavoring they were using had propylene glycol in it, which is a chemical. And the FDA and the equivalent in Australia, they don't care, because it's in such small quantities, it can still be considered natural. And I was like, I do not want that in my bar because it's not natural. It's a chemical and it's not good for you. So we had to stop production literally the day before. And then I had to find something to replace that. And it took us probably 3 months, but we finally found something. And then we were able to do the run.
Yeah.
But that was hard. I mean, in a way it wasn't hard because for me, it wasn't even a consideration. Like there's no way I was going to put that in my product.
Yeah.
But as you're looking for it, you're thinking, is this going to be successful? Like, because I've now stopped everything. And of course I'm funding this business myself. So, but it worked out in the end. And then it became part of the story. And so I think that's the neat thing is your obstacles, they can seem really tough, but they become part of what makes you really great. Like now I have this story that I wouldn't compromise. And that's part of the Soul Coast story.
Yeah.
So it ended up being really good.
Yeah.
The other one was the second company we launched, my partner and I at the same time, we launched a gift company. And we had like 4,000 tea tumblers coming into Amazon from the States, from China. And they mislabeled everything. So 4,000 bottles get to Amazon mislabeled, which is not a good thing. So that was, like all of this inventory. And then to make matters worse, then Amazon messed up. They mislabeled them wrong again after it all got fixed. So basically we probably for 3 months, we were sorting this all out. But in the end, Amazon ended up giving us some money back and the company ended up giving us some money back. And I think the big thing, the learning with that, it really put us back in terms of profits, but it really made us see how committed we were to solving the problems. And I remember something Tim Ferriss said. He said, an entrepreneur has many definitions, but probably at the essence of an entrepreneur is how they can find solutions to problems.
Yeah.
Like that's really what being an entrepreneur is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's made us really resilient. And I'd have to say the 2 product businesses that I've developed over this past couple of years have been dreams, but they've also been 2 of the hardest, and which sometimes makes sense as well. Like the things that you want the most initially can be harder, but then, they give you so much.
Yeah. Yeah. Now for people who are, I know you do business coaching with people. For people who are, starting out, but also could just be for anyone in a business. But let's say, especially for people who are starting out, what do you see are like 1 or 2 kind of pitfalls that new entrepreneurs make, and what to do about it?
I think one of the main things is it's good to get advice, especially, when you're starting out, but make sure the advice or the coaching that you're getting comes from someone who has either done it or is successful in another area. So don't necessarily go to your mom or your dad or your best friend or your hairdresser to get an opinion. Make sure you go to someone who's either done it and been successful, and don't go to someone who has done it and hasn't been successful. Like if you wanted to be a teacher, why would you go talk to a teacher that has failed, that got kicked out of his university? So make sure that they have done well in that industry, or they've done well in another industry that's similar or similar mindsets. I see way too many people that have a dream and then they go talk to someone who talks them out of their dream. Yeah. And sometimes it's the people that are closest to us because they care, but they're scared for us, or it's confronting because they're not doing anything. Yeah. So yeah, be careful. Do seek advice. Like I probably I probably don't seek enough advice, and I need to. I tend to be like, I can figure it out, but I need to seek more advice. So if you're that person, do that. But I think that the underlying thing is make sure it's from a qualified person. Yeah. And don't let someone unqualified kill your dream. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The other thing I would say is that early on, be looking for ways to infuse your business with everything that you love. And if you get an idea, go with it. Like there's so many things that were passions of mine, like raw food was a real passion of mine back in probably 2008. And I did a little bit with it, but I didn't probably go full out as I should have. So if you're passionate about something, infuse that into your business somehow. Because I've always found, like, whenever I go towards what I love, and I know we had this conversation the other day with a decision that I need to make, go with what where your passion and your enthusiasm is, and bring that into your business. And I wish I had done that sooner in my businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another question. What do you wish you'd done sooner? What like changes or leaps do you wish you'd made sooner in terms of your business life?
I wish I had brought dance in sooner than I did. You know, that, but I'm also very grateful, you know, I didn't grow up dancing. So I did it later on in life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish I had done it sooner. I also think really trust yourself, that if a business partnership doesn't feel right or something doesn't feel right, trust yourself. You know, I think there's times where I could have made a decision more quickly. Like maybe I hung on in like say for even just a very simple thing with a shipping company for my bar that didn't end up being a very good shipping company. So, and I kind of sensed it earlier on. And so I should have made that decision quicker. So, and I think this goes back to speaking our truth. It's also trusting ourselves as well. And this is, you know, we can talk to someone who has, you know, some good mentorship ability if we're unsure, but I think also developing that skill to trust yourself and make decisions quickly and then stick with them is really important when you're an entrepreneur too.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I remember, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go on.
One of our mutual friends and, who I just adore and has been such a great example in business too, is Adam Hudson. And I remember probably about 6 years ago, he visited us in Miami, or I don't know where I was living at the time, but he was making a lot of decisions really quickly in his business. And I remember thinking, he's not even giving it time. He's just like I think he should give it more time.
Yeah.
But I learned over the past few years that I should have made things a little bit quicker. Like I could see that the money was going out not in the way it should be, and I should have stopped it quicker. So trust your intuition.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. I'm gonna switch again a little bit and ask you. This is a kind of combination of personal life and professional life, but I'm curious, what's something personally that you used to struggle with about yourself that now is either totally neutral or is actually something that you enjoy? Your experience of it has totally changed.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I think one of the things is I was a huge perfectionist, like so much so if I would ever give a speech or a talk, I would literally write out my speech and memorize it. So everything had to be perfect. And that's probably why I teach, like the very thing that I love about dance, teaching people that you don't have to be perfect, is something that I needed to learn too. So I think I used to worry about being perfect. And then there was a switch probably about 10 years ago where I was just like, I don't have time. And I think that was part of it. It's like, I don't have time to do this.
Yeah.
So then you just start letting go. Like, I'm just going to get up and speak and just speak from my heart. And, so that was a big thing for me, to go from being a perfectionist to just letting go more.
Yeah. That's huge.
And I'd say the sooner that you can do that.
Yeah. It's something I think everyone can relate to on some level, you know, but everyone's got that thing of course we want to do well. And, you know, part of it's how we were raised in schools and graded and stuff. And, but if you wait till it's perfect, it's never going to get done, or you're going to miss so many opportunities along the way. And it kind of fits in with what you're saying with Adam, making decisions, like feeling it, doing it fast, get that in motion and keep going. What's next, you know? Yeah.
And it's like that whole concept when people say, you know, like, what's the best ad or the best website or the best blog? And the best ad, website, or blog is the one that's up. You know, it's not the one that you're still writing the blog for the last 6 months. It's the one that's up, you know, even if it's a little bit imperfect. And I don't mean like, I'm still, and I do believe this is from Think and Grow Rich, that, you know, if you take a magnifying glass and you have a field of dry grass, if you move that magnifying glass all over, you're never going to start a fire. But if you keep it in one place, the sun will just like boom. So I do believe in focus, and I do actually believe in work. But there's a difference between doing the work and then also just saying it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to get out into the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Looking into the next phase of your life, what are you really excited about learning or doing in the next phase?
Yeah, it's actually a really exciting phase. So a lot of my business before has been coaching and intellectual property. And we might have frozen. Oh, you're still there. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So more, programs that I've sold that are online, or like my Sexy Fit Nutrition Challenge is an online intellectual property course,
Yeah.
or coaching or retreats. So I've moved into a product-based business, which is ironic because usually when you're in a product-based business, everyone is saying go online and,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's just two things that I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about building two businesses in a different way they're both online though. So that's similar to my other businesses, but they're going to take something different. I've got to become really good in different areas, and that's exciting. I kind of feel like I've been out in the world coaching, like how to do this, the top 7 ways to do that, et cetera, and all from my life. And I'm kind of looking forward, I'm 47 now, to going back behind the businesses and getting them to be successful and then coming out with something new. So it's almost like for a long time I've been a coach, but now I kind of just want to get back in and work and then build something and then have something else to teach. So I'm looking forward to that. It feels, a little bit of reinvention.
Yeah. Awesome. Those are my questions for you. Is there anything else that you would love to talk about or say to this community, anyone listening, or anything coming up for you?
Yeah, I think one of the things, whatever your dreams are, I mean, I know that's your message, like go after your dreams and your purpose and do it with joy and the flow. And I just love everything you do, Rick. And I think to add on to that is I would just say to everyone, like, give it time. It can seem sometimes when you're in the thick of it that it's not happening or it's taking too long, but just give it time and keep going, and it will happen. I just pulled out one of our boards for some products. We had done it like 6 months ago. And right now I can feel like, wow, we're so far behind and stuff. But I pulled out this board and I was like, oh my God, we've done like 50 things on this list. So when you're in the thick of it, you don't realize how far you've come. So I would say just keep going towards your dreams, taking action all the time. Like, we can't just have a vision board and think it's going to happen. So we want to take action every day. But again, if we're doing that based around what we love, that energy is going to come from that. And then listen to other people, like in terms of not so much the mentoring, but people like Tim Ferriss, or who else do I really love? Well, Tim Ferriss is on my mind because he's an entrepreneur who has had failures. And for me, that's really good to hear of people that are very successful that have had failures and disappointments and gone through depression. So then we can know we can make it too. Like, it's totally, like, I had a really tough previous like 6 months of just like redirection and reorientating. But when I hear of other successful people that have gone through that too, it makes me know it's not me. It's not, it's not something wrong with me. So I would say find people that you admire and listen to their podcasts, and know that they have failed as well. And it's okay, but they keep going forward and finding a different way. The most recent podcast, Why It's on My Mind, is Tim Ferriss talked about the 4-Hour Chef book that really just failed. But in that failure, when he was in his most depressed state, that's when his podcast idea came out of that. And his podcasts are more successful than any of his books. So I really do believe that, it's in the discontent or it's in the confusion that our best ideas can come.
That reminds me, I was talking to a friend of mine, Vince, on Bali, who I've been friends with for years and years. And we were talking about business stuff, and he goes, I have this idea now. Do you know what makes a business successful? And I'm like, what? And he says, it's the last one standing.
Yeah. Yes. So
it's kind of how I feel about Vision Quest. I'm like, God, it's just not going to stop. Like, we're going to be the last one standing, So, and I think that's what that's what, when you do find your purpose, you know, and you do find the way to turn your purpose into a service that people are so happy to pay for. It's just this perfect, it's the most perfect equation that life has given us that people forgot about. It's like when you kind of went through that realization of like, oh, I can do something that provides value and people pay me for it. And then I don't have to do a job. Then I've got a way of creating income that's filling up my heart. It's filling up other people's hearts and paying me. So that takes one less thing to worry about, you know? Yeah. This has just been awesome, Carmen.
Really enjoyed it too, Rick. Always love chatting.
Yeah.
And so, and you're in Bali. I miss Bali so much. So it's so great to see you there.
Yeah. When are you back in Bali? Do you know?
Not sure. We're headed to Thailand in a month, but I'm hoping we'll be back in Bali sometimes this year. This is the longest time we've been away from Bali, so hopefully soon.
Yeah. All right. Well, I look forward to catching up with you back here when you're back here. And thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for condensing your 47 years of wisdom and experience and heart into this hour. There's so many gems in here and a lot of inspiration. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for your time and lots of love, Carmen.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Rick.
Talk soon. Bye, Carmen.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.